Dillon Gabriel goes out with a concussion. Shedeur Sanders, sloppy, took too many sacks, took too many hits, 4 of 16 through an interception. Not the most stunning or seamless debut for Shedeur Sanders, but from what you saw from him, what you have seen from him, whether it's in college or his work that he got in the preseason, what does he need to do to keep a starting job in the NFL?
Well, so, I'm actually calling the Browns at the Raiders on Sunday for CBS. So could be Shedeur's first start. I don't want to say I totally dismiss how he performed against the Ravens, but I think you really need to take that with a grain of salt. He probably got 1 or 2 reps, if any, last week in practice, and the entire game plan was designed around Dillon Gabriel's skill set, which, by the way, is the right move for Kevin Stefanski and the Browns to give Gabriel every chance to have success as a rookie. That said, if Gabriel's out and Shedeur Sanders does start the game, then the entire game plan and every rep should go to Shedeur Sanders this week, and I would expect him to perform better. I thought he showed more athleticism than I think some people give him credit for, running a couple times for productive yardage. Obviously, the biggest issue is the holding on to the ball at times and the drifting backwards in the pocket. It is sort of a learned trait that most of the time your best move is to step up in the pocket as opposed to bailing out the back. Again, though, I do think it'd be really interesting if he does start to see how the offense is designed around Shedeur and his skill set, because he's a different player than is Dillon Gabriel.
You mentioned the limited snaps that he's taken in practice. Give us all context as somebody who played and somebody who covers the sport at your level. How different is that than most backup quarterback situations?
No, that's how it is. I mean, and that's kind of backups across the board. Now, for me as a former offensive lineman, there's a lot of weeks I was the backup at center and both guards. So I might have gotten the last rep or two. So typically a practice segment will be 12 plays, maybe 15. You want the starter to get those looks because there's only limited practice time. You want them to get those reps. So I think it's very customary, especially I would say when you have a rookie starting quarterback, you're not going to give the backup quarterback reps, which, by the way, is why it's so valuable when you have backups like a Jacoby Brissett or a Joe Flacco that can enter the game with 0 reps during the week and still be able to function. I think that's a little bit harder and a little bit more to ask of a rookie quarterback like Shedeur Sanders. I would expect him to fare much better if he gets all the reps in practice during the week. You'd imagine he'll get a bunch this week with Gabriel being in the concussion protocol, whether or not Gabriel clears it in time to play in the game or not.
So let's go into another quarterback who also hasn't been able to get a whole lot of reps. That's because of injury, and that's J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. We've seen some good. We've seen some not very good from J.J. McCarthy. From where it stands right now, is he the long-term answer for the Vikings?
Well, that's what the whole rest of this season's about. They kind of need to figure that out. And you know what's so interesting to me about that is, remember, they wanted Sam Darnold up until a point where he was going to become a starter somewhere else and get that kind of money. But I had Tom Pelissero from NFL Network come on my show, the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, back, I want to say, in May. And he reported that the Vikings had actually offered Daniel Jones more guaranteed money than did the Colts. Remember, he's getting $13 million from the Colts. That means the Vikings offered him at least $14 million fully guaranteed. Now, Daniel Jones went to Indy because he knew he had a better chance to be the starting quarterback, as opposed to looking over his shoulder at J.J. McCarthy, who the Vikings drafted high for a reason. But that tells you a little bit about the Vikings as it relates to J.J. McCarthy. Whether it was a health thing or whether they just weren't totally sure. Nobody offers a guy over $14 million fully guaranteed for 1 year to be a backup quarterback in the NFL unless they believe there's a real chance that that guy is going to have to play. Ironically, of course, because of injury, Daniel Jones would have started a bunch of games for the Vikings, like Carson Wentz did. And quite frankly, if Daniel Jones had played as well in Minnesota as he has in Indy, he probably would still be in the lineup, and they wouldn't have been able to take him out, and J.J. McCarthy would be on the bench. Instead, McCarthy's back in, and McCarthy has the rest of the season to prove to the organization and the fan base that they do not need to get another quarterback or even competition going into 2026.
Imagine how different the league would have looked, Daniel Jones not with the Colts. That's crazy. Same game, opposite sideline, Caleb Williams. We've seen some good, we've seen some bad. We see these clutch wins over and over and over again, but the tape doesn't always look great. Where are you on Caleb?
He's getting better, and I'll take a guy who the tape doesn't always look great, but they play their best at the end, which, by the way, is the same thing for J.J. McCarthy. Now, he didn't play well at all, but those last couple drives, that was the best J.J. McCarthy was all day. That's been Bo Nix all season. That's been Caleb Williams all season. It's kind of wild that draft class, it doesn't always look pretty, but those guys have a real tendency on the last drive or two in the last 5 minutes to play better than they have all game. Somebody has to tell those guys, hey, just pretend like it's the last 5 minutes, please, for the whole game.